Ever since the Industrial Revolution, factories, power plants, and cars have been burning fossil fuels, releasing large amounts of carbon dioxide and other gases into the atmosphere, commonly known as greenhouse gases. These gases trap sun's heat within the Earth's atmosphere, thus increasing the overall temperature and contributing to global warming. Since start of 20th century, average mean temperature on Earth has risen to 1.1 degrees. And at this rate, we are heading for a 2.7-degree rise above the pre-industrial age. This rising average has resulted in changing weather patterns including storms, droughts, extreme temperatures, fires, floods. We humans are mostly responsible for this disaster, and therefore, we ourselves are responsible for its timely correction. In today's episode of Explainable TV, we will look at how the world is trying to cope up with this emergent challenge. This brings us to the first question, that is, what is COP? United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change was set up in 1992 with ultimate objective of achieving stabilization of greenhouse gas concentrations in the atmosphere at a level that would prevent dangerous interference with the climate system. Under this convention, a yearly conference is conducted on the subject since 1995, known as Conference of Parties, or in short COP. These conferences are attended by state heads, corporations, businessmen, NGOs and activists to forward their big ideas, pledges and progress in the light of Paris Agreement. This brings us to the second question of the day. What is Paris Agreement on climate control? COPs had been happening for almost 3 decades, with no clear goals to counter the climate challenge. But during COP21 held in Paris in 2015, there was finally a breakthrough. For the first time, almost all countries in the world signed a legally binding international treaty, called as the Paris Agreement. Human role on climate change was accepted, and participants agreed on some important goals in order to mitigate or slow down the worsening effects of climate changes, which included limit rise in global warming to well below 2 degrees centigrade, while aiming for 1.5 degrees compared to pre-industrial levels, halving of global carbon emissions by 2030, and achieve net zero carbon emissions globally by 2050, meaning total emissions would become equal to total removed from atmosphere. And lastly, help developing countries in achievement of these objectives and adapt to the climate crisis through financial assistance amounting to $100 billion. To achieve these ambitious objectives, it was decided that individual countries would also come up with their own climate action plans, comprising both active and passive measures called as nationally determined contributions, or simply NDCs. However, these are not legally binding on the countries. NDCs may include anything from planting more trees, reducing deforestation, boosting renewable energy sources, and switching to electric vehicles. To achieve these objectives require immediate, rapid and large-scale reductions in greenhouse gases, to the tune of 7% every year till 2030. For comparison, last year when the world locked down due to COVID-19, global emissions dropped by just over 6%. So, you can well imagine the difficult road ahead. 26th session of Conference of Parties was planned in 2020, but could not take place because of COVID. However, it's taking place now. So can COP26 solve the climate crisis? Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change recent report on climate change has declared Red Code for Humanity, stating that existing practices are severely contributing to new extremes in magnitude, frequency, timings, and regions. This may be our last chance, as the window is fast closing to cut our reliance on fossil fuels and reduce greenhouse gas emissions. This year's conference is taking place in Glasgow, Scotland, and will be one of the most important events of the year. Previously, all countries had made many ambitious pledges. Especially China, the world's highest contributor to global carbon emissions, who promised to reach net zero carbon emissions by 2060 and not fund any future coal projects abroad. So, COP26 would be the first test of strength of the Paris Agreement and the credibility of all countries. Everyone is looking forward to the new NDCs. Who's pledging what and who can be persuaded to pledge more? A lot of talk on money is expected, including future of carbon markets and provision of promised financial assistance to the developing countries. And some protests too. However, the biggest challenge would be making sure the countries actually deliver on those pledges. Some burning issues that merit attention during COP26 include setting clear and achievable targets, especially by carbon emitter giants, increased effort to reduce methane emission and phasing out coal, protecting forests, and improving early warning systems for climate crisis, especially in developing countries. The stakes are too high, however. We are hopeful because climate change is rapidly getting mainstream, and that is slowly turning the global economy green. We need to work together as one planet to save Mother Earth and the future of humanity. If there's another story or topic you want to get your head around, let us know. In the meantime, check out our recent episode on effects of vaping on health and make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel.